Tan? Oh, Tan! Soy called out, pushing open the gate to Old Tan's house as he walked in. Old Tan's dog, famous for its fierceness in the village, didn't even bother to bark at Soy today. It was probably used to Soy, who visited so often that the dog had grown familiar with his scent. Soy saw the house door wide open, but scanning the spacious yard, he couldn't find Old Tan. He muttered, "The door's wide open like this, but no one's around. One day a thief will waltz in and steal the ancestral altar." He said that, but he knew for a fact that on any given day, no scoundrel would dare approach Old Tan's house to steal. Even Soy himself felt it. Visiting was fine, but taking anything home without Old Tan's permission, that dog would tear him to shreds, no joke. The dog had been with Old Tan for a long time, so it was as protective and ill-tempered as its master. Lost in thought, Soy suddenly heard Old Tan's voice echoing from the large field. Soy brightened and hurried towards the sound, but as he got closer, a strange feeling washed over him when Old Tan's words became clearer. "Spread your legs! Hurry, hurry, it's about to be born." Old Tan's urgent words, accompanied by a hearty, almost beastly laugh, left Soy standing dumbfounded, not knowing what to make of it. A flurry of thoughts raced through his mind, wondering if Old Tan was involved in something shady. While lost in thought, Soy was startled when Old Tan's voice boomed again. "Damn it, Soy, you came in without a sound, like a mute. You scared the living daylights out of me. I swear I might die from fright, not from ghosts, but from your sneakiness." Old Tan, seemingly annoyed, let out a grunt. Soy looked at him and chuckled. "I called out multiple times, but I didn't hear you respond, Tan. I was just standing in the garden, wondering if you were around." The moment Soy finished speaking, his eyes widened, and he pointed a trembling finger at Old Tan, stammering, "Bee blood." "Where's that blood coming from, Tan?" Old Tan burst out laughing and replied, "I just helped a sow give birth. She had 10 piglets, all plump and strong. What did you think, huh?" He then waved his hand dismissively. "Go on. Get out of here. You're getting blood on your hands and clothes. It looks disgusting. Old Tan here is used to this stuff. I butcher pigs every day, unlike you, pretending to be squeamish now. I'm just saying, Tan, hurry up. I bought some pig's organ porridge. Come in and eat it while it's hot. I need to go to the garden to pick some herbs." Seeing the bowl of porridge, Old Tan exclaimed, "Oh, delicious, is it? I'll go pour some wine. Otherwise, my mouth will feel bland." After a while of chit-chat, Soy suddenly remembered something and said, "Tan, have you heard about the spring chick? I caught her red-handed, acting all lovey-dovey with that soldier boy. Who in their right mind would go to the graveyard for a romantic rendezvous? There are plenty of other places. Good heavens, maybe I should tell your wife to buy you a new dress. You're like an old woman, gossiping all day about everyone in the village, even delving into every nook and cranny of their affairs." Old Tan scoffed playfully. Soy, instead of getting defensive, just chuckled softly. "Oh, Tan, saying that will get you a bad score with me. If I weren't like those gossiping women, how would I get all this information? Unlike you, staying cooped up at home all day. Otherwise, Nam might try to woo Tom away. Hearing Tom's name, old Tan, who was mid-swallow, choked on his porridge. "What will you say? My Tom is being wooed?" So he shook his head, a wry smile on his face, and took a sip of wine. He then spoke slowly. "So, what have you been up to lately, Tan, that you haven't been paying attention to Miss Tom?" "Lately, I've heard Juan always lurking around Tom's house. If you don't keep a close eye on her, you'll be left crying. She's almost 50. But you're still dilly-dallying. If I were you, it'd be done in a minute." Old Tan slapped his thigh loudly and growled. "Damn it, I've been stuck at home these past few days, watching over a sow giving birth. That wretched scoundrel thought I was busy and wouldn't go to Tom's house, so he's been trying to flirt with my Tom." He then refilled his wine cup and drained it. Just as he was eating his porridge, shouts erupted from the street. So he quickly put down his bowl of porridge and rushed to the gate to see what the commotion was about. Even the sleeping dog, Wretch, quickly ran out after Soy. Everyone was running towards the end of the village. Soy quickly grabbed an elder and asked, "What's going on, uncle? Where's everyone rushing to?" "Don't you know? That Tu Lac, the one with the torn clothes, he's going around eating dried cow dung. His parents and wife can't stop him. It's terrible. Who knows what terrible karma he's accumulated to be tormented like this?" Finishing his sentence, the elder quickly merged into the curious crowd to see what was happening with Tu Lac. Soy ran back and pulled old Tan's arm, saying, "Let's go, Tan, let's go see what's wrong with Tu Lac." Old Tan shook off Soy's hand and snapped, "I'm still busy finishing my game. I don't have time to bother with other people's business. If you want to go, then go." Soy knew old Tan was worried about someone else stealing Tom away. So he quickly approached old Tan. "Oh, what are you worried about, Tan? Where there's a will, there's a way. Where there's a dog, there's shrimp paste. You're worried about Nam, that village bully. Next time he comes around, just give some beer money to the village youths and tell them to drag him and his motorbike into the pond. Do that a few times and he'll be scared to death." "No need to say more, Tan. I'll guard Tom for you like a precious treasure." Old Tan seemed to have a burden lifted from his shoulders. He grinned slyly and said, "Oh, you're right. That's a good idea. We're from this village. Why should we be afraid of anyone? Next time that fake shaman comes here, I'll tell them to throw him right into the pond to catch fish." Now, old Tan and Soy also hurried off to see what was happening. Since befriending Soy, old Tan had become more involved in village affairs, whereas before, he used to ignore everything. If anyone needed help, they would have to come to his house, and even then, he might only help the next day. At this moment, Tu Lac was sprawled on the road, covered in cow dung, emitting a foul odor. His mouth was also smeared with dung, and he was laughing maniacally. It was truly a pitiful sight. He was healthy just moments ago, and now he was raving mad. Who knows what sin he had committed to be tormented like this? Whispers and shocked murmurs filled the air, accompanied by the cries of Tu Lac's parents. "Son, come home. Mother begs you. Please come home." Despite his parents' agonizing cries, to the point of fainting, Tu Lac continued to roll around and laugh. Mrs. Lamb, meanwhile, threw her head back, pounding her chest repeatedly and lamenting. "Oh, heaven and earth! What sin have I committed to deserve such torment for my child? If there's any retribution, let it fall on me. Just spare my son." A few young men tried to rush in and restrain Tu Lac, but he was holding a small sickle, so no one dared to approach forcefully. So he asked, "Is this kid possessed by a ghost or something, Tan? He was perfectly fine. And now he's crazy and eating dung. If you ask me, who should I ask?" "Oh, this old man is funny, isn't he? You're a shaman. If I don't ask you, who should I ask?" Old Tan retorted, "I'm a shaman, but I don't know everything. So, in short, is that kid possessed?" Looking at him, there's nothing, no hint of dark energy, but his face seems lifeless. A healthy person doesn't just go mad for no reason. Tan, see if there's a way to get him home. It's so pitiful to see him like this. Can't you see he's covered in cow dung? Who would dare go near him? Oh, come on, Tan. Just help me out. You know me. We're childhood friends. Tu Lac and I have been friends since we were kids, herding buffalo naked. We don't herd buffalo anymore, but we're still close." Old Tan didn't let Soy finish his sentence and immediately walked towards Tu Lac. He circled Tu Lac a few times as if to examine him, then muttered, "Damn it, he was perfectly fine, and now he is gone mad. His eyes are glazed over, like a drunkard." Old Tan looked at Tu Lac and called out, just loud enough not to startle him, as Tu Lac was holding a sickle. If he messed up, Tu Lac might accidentally strike him in the head. In the past, Old Tan knew no fear, but now he had found the love of his life, so he treasured his old body greatly. "Tu Lac, Tu Lac." Tu Lac stopped, raising his eyes, showing more white than black, to look at Old Tan. He then let out a ghostly chuckle and said in a faint voice, "Who are you, you wretch?" Old Tan thought to himself, "He is mad, but he still recognized me calling his name, so his condition isn't too bad. Tu Lac, come home and drink dog meat wine, won't you?" At this, Tu Lac looked at Old Tan with a contemptuous smile, then threw down the sickle and clapped his hands excitedly like a child about to receive a treat. After that, he pointed at Old Tan's face and yelled, "Dog! Dog! Eat dog!" Old Tan frowned and said, "You're pointing at yourself. Why point at me? What do you mean I'm a dog?" Damn this madman. He thinks he's a dog. Tu Lac didn't seem to understand what Old Tan was saying, but he continued to laugh crazily, his head swaying. Old Tan looked towards Tu Lac's parents and said, "Why aren't you quickly tying him up and taking him home? What are you standing there for?" After Old Tan's words, Tu Lac's parents and a few other villagers rushed in to restrain Tu Lac. Some held his arms, others his legs, making it difficult for him to resist. The men tied him up and carried him home. Just a few minutes later, everyone in the village dispersed and went home. Soy looked at Old Tan, who was leaving the house. "Do you have a way to cure him, Tan?" "I don't know. I'm a shaman for ghosts, not a psychiatrist who knows how to cure madness. I don't think he just got like this out of nowhere. There must be something spiritual involved here. What the hell do you know about spiritual matters? Just go home Otherwise the sun will dry out your tongue. I'll figure it out myself. Yes, Tan, please try to help him, and me too. We've been friends since childhood, and now seeing him like this makes me so sad. All right, hurry up and go. Don't stand there pitying him. It's tearing me up inside. After walking a short distance, Soy turned to Old Tan, grinned, and said in a surprised tone, Tan, look who it is. Old Tan looked in the direction Soy pointed and froze when he realized it was Tom. He quickly hiked up his trousers to his thighs, completely flustered, to wade into the pond and gather water hyacinths. Soy saw Old Tan dumbfounded, so he nudged him and said, "When you encounter a ghost, you're as brave as a fighting cock. Why are you suddenly acting like a scared little bird, Tan?" Old Tan just stared blankly at Tom, ignoring Soy's words buzzing in his ear. He truly missed Tom. It had only been a few days since he'd been stuck at home, watching the sow give birth, unable to see Tom, and it felt like 2 years. He kept muttering, "I wonder what Tom eats to be so fair-skinned. She's out in the sun and wind all day, but she looks fresher than those young 18-year-olds. Old Tan snapped back to reality. He turned to Soy, his eyes like daggers. Soy, seeing Old Tan look as if he wanted to eat him alive, quickly took a few steps back, waving his hands. Hey, I just admire Tom. I don't mean anything by it. Why don't you go help your future wife gather water hyacinths? You're standing there staring so hard, your eyeballs are about to pop out." I completely forgot. All right, you go on ahead, or wherever you need to go. I'm going to help Tom gather water hyacinths. So he couldn't help but laugh at Old Tan's hurried, rickety gait, like a shaky bamboo pole. Tom, who was busy scooping water hyacinths, was so startled by the call that she nearly toppled headfirst into the pond. Once she regained her balance, she let out a shaky breath, as if releasing a gasp of fright. Instead of reflecting Old Tan's radiant smile, Tom's face was filled with annoyance. She looked at Old Tan and snapped, "What are you shouting about? You startled me so much I almost fell into the pond." "Oh, I'm sorry, Tom," Old Tan said, seeing Tom and so happy that he might have gotten a bit carried away. With that, Old Tan jumped into the pond next to Tom, and his hands, quick as lightning, began to scoop water hyacinths into Tom's basket without a word. Tom looked at Old Tan's enthusiasm and gave a knowing smile. In an instant, the basket was full. Old Tan turned to Tom and asked, "Tom, it's full now. Shall we go home?" "Yes." As Tom reached to pick up the basket of water hyacinths, Old Tan quickly held her hand. "Here, let me carry it for you." Yes, but Tan, please let go of my hand first. Then I can carry the hyacinths." Only then did Old Tan realize his hand was still tightly clasping Tom's. He quickly let go of her hand, smiling sheepishly. Old Tan, wanting to show his enthusiasm for his beloved, carried the large basket of water hyacinths, which made him lean to one side. His gait was no different from someone with scoliosis. It was clear to Tom that he was sweating profusely. Old Tan knew he was very tired, but he still had to smile brightly. In his heart, however, he grumbled, "Damn it all! I just had to scoop so much, and now I can't even carry it." It was almost noon, and the sun was high in the sky. Old Tan had to carry the heavy load and talk to Tom to win her over, making him very tired. His breaths were ragged, and he was drenched in sweat as if he'd just bathed. By the time they reached Tom's gate, Old Tan was truly exhausted. He put the basket of water hyacinths down and collapsed onto the doorstep, gasping for breath. Tan, drink some water to cool down. He took the ladle of water from Tom's hand and drank it all in one gulp. Then he looked at Tom and said, "Tom, don't call me back. Uncle, like that it sounds too distant, like a bad omen. Call me Untant, older brother Tan. To make it closer. I'm older. People will laugh if I call you that. I'll be so embarrassed. Who cares if they laugh? Let them laugh. What do you care what they think, Tom?" After a bit more chit-chat with Tom, Old Tan headed home, promising to visit Tom again tomorrow. Tom watched Old Tan's disappearing figure and softly said, "What a charming man. No wonder those gossiping old women are all so smitten with him." That very evening, as Old Tan sat picking his teeth and drinking water, he heard someone calling from outside the gate. Wretch, the dog, hearing a stranger, rushed to the gate, barking loudly. Old Tan quickly stood up and ran out to see who was looking for him. He led the dog inside and opened the gate. "Mrs. Lamb, good evening. What brings you here? Yes, I have something I need your help with, master. What is it? Please come in and tell me." Old Tan guessed that Mrs. Lamb's visit was likely about her son, Tu Lac. "Master, my family has an urgent matter. My son, Tu Lac, has been rolling around and scratching his body to the point of bleeding." When he saw the marks on her hands, Old Tan understood the seriousness of the situation. He quickly closed his gate and immediately went with Mrs. Lamb. Fortunately, her house was only a short distance from his. Upon entering the gate, Old Tan saw many people gathered from the yard to Mrs. Lamb's house. They must have heard Tu Lac's screams and come over to see what was happening. In this village, if someone lost a chicken or a piece of paper, the whole village, from top to bottom, would be abuzz the next day. Among the curious onlookers, Old Tan spotted Soy already kneeling on the floor, his mouth muttering. "Tu Lac. Oh, Tu Lac. What's wrong with you?" "What can I do, Tu Lac?" Old Tan strode forcefully into the house and shouted, "Everyone! There's nothing to see. Standing so crowded like this, how can anyone breathe? He might not die from madness, but from suffocation." Even after that, several people still remained unmoving. Old Tan, irritated, barked, "If you stand there, the spirit might escape. And if it possesses someone, don't blame fate." At his words, everyone quickly scattered and ran home. It's true that the living aren't afraid of much, but the mention of ghosts and spirits sends shivers down their spines and makes them wet their pants. "Tan, you're here. Can you check on my friend? His condition is getting worse and worse. Can he escape this calamity?" Old Tan looked at Soy, who seemed genuinely concerned for his friend. Soy might act a bit silly sometimes, but he had a good heart. "All right, step back. Let me take a look." At this moment, Tu Lac was using both hands to scratch his entire body, tearing his skin and bleeding profusely. His eyes were glazed over. and he kept moaning in pain. Occasionally, when he was too exhausted, he would lie down and groan. Old Tan approached and reached out to touch Tu Lac's arm, but quickly recoiled. Tu Lac's hand, or rather, his entire body, was burning hot. The temperature wasn't like a fever, but more like he was being incinerated. As Old Tan touched Tu Lac's arm, he could feel something moving very rapidly beneath his skin, as if a creature was crawling inside his body. This boy is afflicted by black magic. Everyone who heard this froze. Mrs. Lamb, however, wailed again. Oh, heaven and earth, why is my son's fate so miserable? What good will shouting do? Let Master Tan see if there's a way to help our son. Her husband's words seemed to awaken Mrs. Lamb's senses. But instead of crying out to heaven and earth, she turned and grabbed Old Tan's leg, pleading, "Oh, Master Tan, please, help my son. If anything happens to him, I'll die." Old Tan, with one hand, held his pants, which were threatening to fall down due to Mrs. Lamb's frantic grip. He tried to speak in an irritated tone. "This woman is something else, isn't she? How can I save your son if you keep pulling at my pants like a chicken being bled?" At this, Mrs. Lamb immediately fell silent, not moving her lips. Old Tan looked at Tu Lac's wife and said, "Go to Mr. I's house and ask for some realgar. Bring it here. And Mrs. Lamb, go get an egg. I want to see if this boy's black magic affliction is severe or not." Seeing Thu by the door, Old Tan quickly added, "Mix it with water and bring the syringes here." As soon as Thu brought the items Old Tan needed, Old Tan looked at Tu Lac's two cousins and said, "You guys, come here and hold him down for me." As soon as Old Tan finished speaking, the men rushed to restrain Tu Lac. However, the moment their hands touched Tu Lac's body, they immediately pulled back and shouted, "It's too hot! It's burning!" Seeing this, Old Tan approached. He told them to spread their hands, and while muttering something no one could understand clearly, he used his index finger to write something on their palms. When he finished, he said, "All right, it's done. Now, hold him down, quickly." The men looked at each other, bewildered, as if still afraid. At this moment, Soy, trusting Old Tan, carefully touched Tu Lac's arm to test it, then shouted, "It's not hot anymore, guys. Quickly, hold him down so Tan can save him before he dies." At this, several people rushed to restrain Tu Lac. When he was held, Tu Lac struggled even more violently. Old Tan injected a diluted realgar solution into Tu Lac's mouth. However, as soon as the realgar entered his throat, he thrashed even harder. It seemed that the burly young men could no longer hold him. "All right, let him go. No need to hold him down." Soy then looked at Old Tan and asked, "Are you sure, Tan? I think he seems even crazier now." I said, "Let go." So let go. Stop talking so much. As soon as Old Tan finished shouting, Tu Lac's thrashing subsided. His hands and feet lay still, but his mouth still let out soft groans, as if he was still in great pain. At that moment, Mrs. Lamb brought a whole bowl of boiled eggs and placed it in front of Old Tan. She said, "Master, I boiled a whole bowl, not just one egg." Old Tan took an egg and told Soy, take off Tu Lac's shirt and hug him tightly. Old Tan then rolled the egg over Tu Lac's face, back, and stomach. While the young men sat watching, whispering and gossiping about Old Tan. Tu Lac is in Tan's hands. He'll be fine. Tan's got this. The ghosts will flee. Old Tan thought to himself, damn these guys. All they're good for is eating. This family is in such a dire state, and they're still able to gobble down food. What nerve! A moment later, Old Tan peeled an egg and broke it in half. The yolk had turned a deep, ominous red. Old Tan shook his head and sighed. Throw this egg away. Why throw it away, Tan? It's perfectly good food. Old Tan looked at Soy, who had just spoken, and said, You can't eat this. Go home and tell his family to prepare a coffin and perform rituals. At this, Soy's face turned pale, and he dared not utter another word. Throw this egg away somewhere. Don't let any animals eat it, or they'll die too. As for this boy, his black magic is very severe. He might not make it through today or tomorrow. Thou and Mrs. Lamb, along with her husband, cried inconsolably. The husband looked at Old Tan with the agonizing gaze of a father about to lose his only son. He spoke in a trembling voice. Master, please, is there any way to save my son? I beg you 100, 1,000 times. I'm sorry, sir, but my power is limited. Tu Lac's internal organs have been completely consumed by the black magic. He's only got minutes, maybe seconds, left to live. Old Tan sighed. He looked at Tu Lac, his eyes reflecting a mixture of helplessness and affection, then turned and walked away. Everyone present must have understood that if Old Tan said he couldn't save him, then there was truly no way left for Tu Lac. So he looked at Tu Lac lying there, his heart twisting with pain, knowing he was about to lose a lifelong friend. At midnight, as Mrs. Lamb was dozing on Tu Lac's bed, he suddenly opened his eyes wide and sat up abruptly. His gaze was fixed and distant. Then he slowly walked towards the door. He went to the middle of the yard and stood still as if waiting for something. In his hand, he held a sharp knife. Earlier, Trin thought Tu Lac's neighbor was urinating behind a banana tree near the fence when he suddenly stopped. He turned off the flashlight in his hand as he saw a figure standing silently in the middle of the yard on the other side of the fence. Since the fence was made of old makeshift bamboo sticks, it wasn't hard for Trin Thought to recognize the figure as Tu Lac. Trin Thought quickly hid behind the banana tree, watching Tu Lac and muttering, Damn it, what's that kid doing in the middle of the night? This afternoon Old Tan said he was about to die, but he doesn't look like he's dying at all right now. Tu Lac was standing with his back to Trin Thought, so he couldn't see Tu Lac's ashen face. Beneath his skin, it seemed as if creatures were moving. In the faint moonlight, Tu Lac's face looked grotesque. Dog barks, like dogs sensing a ghost, began to echo from a distance and then grew closer. Tu Lac turned his face towards the gate as if waiting for someone. Trin Thought, also curious, looked towards the gate, following Tu Lac's gaze. Indeed, he saw a person wearing a conical hat, standing hunched over in the shadows outside the gate. Despite the darkness, Trin Thought could still make out that it was definitely a woman, an older woman at that, given her hunched back. Damn that Tu Lac. In the middle of the night, he's sneaking off to meet some woman? He has such a beautiful wife, and yet he's still chasing after others? I wish I had a wife like that. I'd be ecstatic. This is truly someone who doesn't appreciate what they have. As soon as he finished speaking, Trinhot froze, his eyes wide open, his mouth stiff and unable to close. His entire body began to tremble violently, as if he had a seizure. Before his eyes, Tu Lac was now squatting. Although Trinhot wasn't looking directly, he could see all the horrifying things happening by the moonlight and the faint yellow light spilling from the house. Trinhot saw insects crawling out from Tu Lac's eyes, nostrils and mouth, covering his distorted face. It was impossible to tell how many there were. Tu Lac kept clawing at his face in excruciating pain, to the point where blood was gushing out from the scratches. His blood was dark and foul-smelling. Trinhot felt like screaming, but his voice caught in his throat. Suddenly, Tu Lac turned his head sharply towards him, his two dark eyes filled with strange crawling creatures. His eyeballs then rolled out and landed with a thud on the ground. Trinhot was so terrified that he wet his pants. Tu Lac, meanwhile, took the knife and slit his own belly. A gush of foul-smelling fluid, decomposing organs, and crimson worms spilled out of his abdomen. The worms then scattered everywhere, as if seeking new hosts. Seeing this, Trinhot's fear seemed to reach its peak. He collapsed, unconscious. Trinhot was not a faint-hearted person, nor unfamiliar with gruesome deaths. In the past, he had served in the army, witnessed countless horrific scenes of people torn apart by bombs and bullets. But those were from war. This was a living person, slitting his own stomach, with countless strange creatures crawling out of his body. How could an ordinary person endure such a sight? His fainting was a blessing, otherwise this scene might have driven him mad. Tu Lac was now sprawled on the ground, his limbs twitching a few times, as if signaling his last vestiges of life. Outside the gate, the woman in the conical hat subtly smirked and said, "This debt isn't settled yet. I want to collect both the principal and the interest." A moment later, Mrs. Lamb woke up, seeing the empty bed, and feeling a wave of sadness and longing for her son. She assumed Tu Lac had gotten up to use the restroom, but then remembered his critical condition, so she frantically rushed towards the bathroom. However, just as her foot touched the floor, she suddenly screamed, then collapsed onto the ground. "What's wrong, dear?" Her husband and Tu Lac's wife, quickly rushed out of the house when they heard Mrs. Lamb's blood-curdling scream. The husband rushed to support his wife. Mrs. Lamb couldn't utter a word, only pointing towards the yard. In the dim light, the husband and Tu saw a horrifying sight. A corpse lay there, its abdomen slit open, internal organs no longer intact, blackened and seemingly decomposing, protruding from the cavity. When the husband quickly went to the gruesome corpse, he recognized it as Tu Lac, his only son. He collapsed next to the body, sobbing uncontrollably. He knew his son's death was inevitable, but he couldn't help but feel agonizing pain seeing his beloved and only child gone, and to die such a horrific death. In the quiet of midnight, a commotion arose, and lights gradually lit up. Whispers spread, drawing people to the husband's house when they learned that Tu Lac had died. Everyone was stunned to see Tu Lac's unmarred corpse lying in the middle of the yard, reeking of decay. The murmurs resumed. What happened, ladies? This afternoon, he was as strong as an ox. It took several men to hold him. How could he die so suddenly and decompose like someone who's been dead for weeks? Don't you know? He was cursed with black magic. Who knows who he angered to have this done to him? He was so young and strong, and now he's gone. What will his parents, wife and child do now? All right, ladies. Stop gossiping. Their family is grieving, and you're standing there blabbering. The voice of Mrs. Lan, Soy's wife, rang out, abruptly silencing the gossiping neighbors. She squeezed past a few people with a grain basket on her head to enter the husband's yard. She looked around, searching for her husband, but he was nowhere to be found. Oh, he came here, didn't he? Why isn't he here now? Lan put her hands on her hips, her face turning red with anger. Oh my God, my husband and son. He lied to me to go meet some other woman. And it's so, if I catch him, I'll stab all of you. As soon as she finished muttering, Soy's voice rang out again. Clear the way for old Tan to enter. What are you all standing around for? Crowding the whole yard. As soon as she saw her husband, Lan rushed out and grabbed Soy's arm. Where were you? Where were you? You just showed your face now. You said you'd be here 10 minutes ago. Let go of me. You're making a fool of me. Go call old Tan instead. You're only 10 minutes late. What's the big deal? Lan looked at old Tan and caught his eye, then quickly let go of Soy's hand and turned away. Soy felt very embarrassed, with several people looking at him. But that was his fate. His wife was used to bossing him around. The husband's family, along with a few relatives, were crying over Tu Lac's body. Seeing old Tan, the husband knelt down again. Master Tan, please, why did he die like this? Old Tan shook his head, accompanied by a helpless sigh. I don't know much about black magic, but I know Tu Lac was definitely cursed. But when old Tan saw 2 or 3 insects in Tu Lac's decomposing black internal organs, which reeked of decay, Soy stood beside him, looking puzzled. What are those black magic worms, Tan? I'll explain later. First, let's take care of Tu Lac's funeral rites. Old Tan called the husband aside and asked, do you know what time Tu Lac died, so I can plan? Truthfully, my whole family doesn't know the exact time. Only that we found him dead around past midnight. Old Tan frowned at this, his face showing deep thought. He definitely died from midnight onwards. That's a very bad hour. The husband, hearing this, immediately asked Master, is that bad? I believe your son Tu Lac's death was caused by someone, and the hour of his death was also calculated. If the rituals aren't done carefully, it could lead to successive deaths in the family. Upon hearing successive deaths, the husband's entire family trembled. His legs seemed unable to support him, and his eyes were filled with terror. Do you know there's someone trying to harm your family? The husband grabbed old Tan's hand and stammered, Master Tan, please help my family. I don't care about my old body, but my only son is dead. Now, I only have my grandson to carry on the family name. I trust you. Please save my family. Calm down. I'll do my best. For now, let's focus on Tu Lac's funeral rites so he can rest in peace. I have other matters to consider. But for now, your family must listen to me. Yes, we're relying entirely on you, Master. Old Tan assigned everyone a task, and preparations were made as quickly as possible because Tu Lac was to be buried the next morning. Usually, a deceased person would be kept for a day and a night. But Tu Lac's body was already decomposing, so it couldn't be kept for long. Moreover, Old Tan had already calculated the auspicious time for Tu Lac's burial. He knew someone wanted Tu Lac to die at an inauspicious hour, and was using that to orchestrate a tragedy of successive deaths. This could lead to further deaths in the family. In a short while, Tu Lac's grotesque body lay intact in a new, intricately carved coffin. The coffin still smelled of fresh paint. Mrs. Lamb, out of love for her son, spared no expense in buying the most elaborate coffin. At first, Mrs. Lamb and Thu clung to the coffin, weeping. But after only a few minutes, both mother and daughter covered their mouths and rushed out of the room, gagging and gasping for breath. The decomposing corpse's stench was so overwhelming that no one dared to approach. Only the husband occasionally lit incense and placed candles on the coffin, ensuring the incense didn't go out. Perhaps the most valuable thing at Tu Lac's funeral was the coffin itself. Everything else was makeshift. As for Trin Thought, he eventually regained consciousness after fainting, but the fear still lingered on his face. The grotesque images kept circling in his mind, making his body tremble uncontrollably. And with the fence by the husband's house, the constant wailing and lamentations echoed, further unsettling Trin Thought's mind. Trin Thought dragged his heavy, waterlogged body, stumbling into the house. He poured himself a full glass of water and gulped it down. It was only night, but he was sweating profusely. He didn't even know if he had encountered a ghost or a demon, as normally he felt no emotion looking at a dead person. Trin Thought lit 3 sticks of incense, then clasped his hands together. Amitabha Buddha. I bow to the 9 directions. I bow to the 10 directions of Buddhas. All Buddhas of the 10 directions. I bow to my ancestors. Please protect me. By his nature, Trin Thought would have certainly gone to Mr. Strong's house to inquire. But after the recent events, just thinking about stepping into the husband's house made him tremble with fear. That night, he lay awake, unable to sleep. He turned off all the lights from inside the house to the yard, even the lights in the pigsty and chicken coop. But his eyes wide open, he stared at the roof, watching the spiders weaving their webs. The next morning, all the funeral rites for Tu Lac's peaceful rest were performed. Everyone in the village came to bid Tu Lac farewell for a portion of the journey. Heart-wrenching sobs for a lost loved one echoed, a mournful and sorrowful sound. Though they knew birth and death were inevitable, it was still heartbreaking for the elderly to bury the young. Parents losing a child, a wife losing her husband, a child losing a father. The pain was immense. Old Tan went to a newly dug grave. After looking around for a while, he pulled up his trousers to his calves and jumped into the grave pit. He took 4 talismans from a pouch he wore at his side and buried them at the 4 corners of the grave. When he was done, he shouted, "Where are you guys? Pull me up, come on. It's easy to jump down but hard to get out. Let me clear the way for you. I'll go down to help Tan." Dian spoke up, then jumped into the grave, boosting old Tan from behind. Dean spoke up, then jumped into the grave, pushing old Tan's backside up. A few other young men above pulled old Tan out. Fortunately, the weather had been cool these past few days, so the lao eye, a type of skin irritation sore, couldn't attack. Otherwise, like every other time, if anyone touched old Tan's backside, he'd be in so much pain he'd jump and squeal like a pig. No joke. After that, old Tan brought a small human effigy to the grave. He lit an incense stick and prayed. When he tossed the lit incense stick into the grave, the effigy immediately burst into flame. Seeing the effigy reduced to ashes, old Tan shouted, "It's time for the burial!" Several strong young men from the village's grave-digging committee, hired by Mr. Chong's family, were now tasked with lowering the coffin into the grave. Mrs. Lam and her daughter-in-law seemed to have been waiting for this very moment. Both rushed to the coffin, wailing. Old Tan saw this and snapped, "All right, let go. Let them lower the coffin. How can they bury it if you're holding on to it like that? Stop it now. You can cry all you want after the burial. If you pass the auspicious hour, it will be a disaster. His ghost might come back and take the whole family." At this, Mrs. Lam reluctantly let go of the coffin, though she continued to sniffle out of sorrow for her son. As the coffin was being lowered, one of the young men whispered to Diane, "Hey, you better go home and wash your hands with Omo. Otherwise, you might lose your wife's Omo. Seriously." What do you mean? Did you forget? Old Tan has scabies. You just pushed his butt. If his scabies migrate from his butt to yours, you're in trouble. At this, Diane suddenly remembered something. He completely ignored his friend's funeral. He bolted like a dog being chased from the graveyard all the way home. As he ran breathlessly, he muttered, "Damn it all. If I get scabies, my wife will leave." At this moment, Trin Thought was hiding behind a tree, engrossed in watching the funeral procession, when a figure slowly and gently approached him. A hand lightly patted his shoulder. Trin Thought quickly turned around, his face still etched with fear. It was Dad, his neighbor. Normally, Trin Thought would have pulled up his pants and given him a good scolding. But today, Trin Thought merely grumbled softly, "Damn it, you scared me." My heart almost jumped out of my chest and went to my ancestors. "Oh, Trin Thought, you can get startled today. Usually in this village, you're not afraid of anything. Something that you can be startled and afraid today. Damn it, you want to make trouble, don't you? I'm not used to you like this. I respectfully ask you to go back to being your old self. I miss your scolding. Why are you here? Why aren't you with everyone else? I'm standing here to cool off. And where were you yesterday, Trin Thought? We didn't see you at Tu Lac's funeral. That's not how neighbors should behave. I was sick, so I couldn't come. But I did go to see Tu Lac off. You're always making excuses. Just worry about yourself. I'm just saying, Tan, you can stand here and cool off. I'm going to help Mr. Trong's family. With that ran towards the grave where Tu Lac's burial was taking place. Trin Thought didn't stay much longer and also left. On his way home, Trin Thought, lost in thought, bumped into old lady making her stumble and almost fall. All the joss paper she was carrying scattered across the ground. But Trin Thought didn't say a word, didn't even apologize. He just glanced at Old Lady Nature and walked away. Old Lady now bent down to pick up the scattered joss paper, her face devoid of any expression, as if this incident meant nothing to her, while any other old woman in the village would have cursed Trin Hot to hell. Old Lady Naha watched Trin Hot's retreating back, shook her head, and muttered, "To lose a good fortune, and then invite a cursed one. That is truly a comic twist." After Tu Lac's funeral, Mr. Trong's family thought they would find peace, but strange things began to happen. That night, 10 days after Tu Lac's death, Mrs. Lamb tossed and turned, unable to sleep. It wasn't until well past midnight, when her body and mind were utterly exhausted, that she finally drifted off. In a state of semi-consciousness, she saw a faint, translucent figure slowly approaching her. Mrs. Lamb immediately recognized him as her only son, whom she loved more than life itself. "Tu Lac, my son, have you come to visit your mother?" Mrs. Lamb called out his name, tears streaming down her face, as Tu Lac's ghost drew near. Mrs. Lamb felt an icy coldness envelop her, a chill that seemed to emanate from the underworld. Tu Lac was hovering about 1/2 meter above the ground, his form exactly as he had looked at the moment of his death. His abdomen was split open by the knife wound, and his internal organs spilled out, dangling as if they could fall at any moment. His eyes were like deep black holes, completely devoid of color. His face expressed extreme agony. He reached out both hands towards his mother, speaking in a voice full of pain. "Mother, save me!" "I heard so much, Mother." No sooner had Tu Lac's ghost finished speaking than it seemed to be struck by something. His entire body convulsed, and he clutched himself in agony, causing the internal organs spilling from his abdomen to swing back and forth with his pain. "Oh, please help me." Seeing her son like this, Mrs. Lamb didn't hesitate and rushed towards him. But she couldn't get close to her son's spirit. The closer she ran, the further Tu Lac's spirit seemed to recede. Seeing her son right before her eyes, yet unable to do anything, only able to witness his suffering, Mrs. Lamb's heart twisted in anguish. Then a loud splash, as if something had fallen into the water, and a piercing scream echoed. "Help! Help!" The loud noise woke her husband. He quickly got out of bed and ran towards the sound. Looking down at the shallow fish pond nearby, he was horrified to realize that the person struggling in the cold water was Mrs. Lamb. Without a second thought, he shouted for help and rushed down to save his wife. Tu, hearing the loud splash, also ran out to the yard. Seeing her in-laws struggling in the water, she immediately yelled, "Oh, villagers, help! Someone's drowning!" The next-door neighbor, Trin Thot, who had been having eye surgery recently, heard Thu's frantic cry. Without a word or much thought, he hobbled to the fence to see what was happening at the husband's house. He saw Du standing by the pond, crying out, and knew something was seriously wrong. He lifted his leg, kicked down the makeshift bamboo fence, and rushed into Mr. Trong's yard. At this moment, before him was the sight of Mrs. Lamb grabbing Mr. Trong's hair. Trin Thot assumed the husband was trying to save Mrs. Lamb. However, Mrs. Lamb, not knowing how to swim and in a panic, was just grabbing her husband's head to stay afloat. Trin Hot knew that the husband could swim, but he wasn't particularly good. Before Trin Thought became lame, the whole village had given him the nickname the Water King, because he used to swim from his village's riverbank all the way to the other side to steal. The two villages were separated by a river, but not only could he swim across, he always returned with a lot of stolen goods. Now, even with his limp and old age, he was still an excellent swimmer. Without a second thought, he jumped into the pond, swam to where Mrs. Lamb was, grabbed her tangled hair, and pulled her towards the shore. It was quite a struggle for Tu and Trin Thought to get Mrs. Lamb out of the water, because she wasn't small. When Mr. Trong finally reached the shore, he collapsed, gasping for breath. "Are you two all right, uncles? How are you feeling? Should I call someone to take you to the clinic?" Mr. Trong raised his hand, signaling he was fine. He said faintly, "Thank you, Trin Thought." Trin Thought frowned, thinking, "Damn this Mr. Trong, where's his etiquette? Calling my name is fine. Does he have to add thought, lame, to it?" He's still out of breath and talking too much. He looked at Tu and said, "All right, you go take care of your parents. I'm going home to change. Call me if you need anything." Speaking of changing clothes, he then looked down. He blushed, realizing he was only wearing a very short pair of shorts. The waistband was stretched, exposing half his buttocks. Because they were soaked, the shorts clung to his body. He felt even more embarrassed. Luckily, it was dark, and everyone was in a panic, so no one noticed. So, without another word, he quickly ran all the way home, having to hold up his shorts to keep them from falling. Everyone assumed that what happened to Mrs. Bao Lam was just due to her missing her son, causing her to fall ill and sleepwalk. Her husband even took her to the doctor. They simply said she was weak and needed to eat well and rest for a few days to recover. But the incidents didn't stop. After she fell into the pond in the middle of the night, she continued to Tu Lac appearing many times. Each time, he called for her to save him. But this time, it wasn't just her son who appeared to her. Her in-laws also appeared. That afternoon, Mrs. Lamb was resting in her hammock. In a state between waking and sleeping, she saw her in-laws appear before her. This was the first time Mrs. Lamb had dreamed of her in-laws, and she thought they must need something, which was why they appeared in her dream. But, contrary to her thoughts, both of them looked very angry. Her mother-in-law pointed at her daughter-in-law's face and yelled, "Damn you wicked daughter-in-law! How dare you kill your husband and destroy the Nguyen family lineage? How can you be so cruel? How could you kill your own husband? You've brought ruin to this family, and we will kill a wicked daughter-in-law like you." As soon as she finished speaking, both figures lunged at their daughter-in-law. One grabbed her hair, the other slapped Mrs. Lamb repeatedly in the face. Mrs. Lamb, terrified, screamed and woke up. She fell from the hammock to the ground, but she didn't feel any pain. Instead, she rushed to the altar, her hands trembling. She lit incense and bowed repeatedly. "I beg you, ancestors, forgive my foolishness. I beg forgiveness." At this moment, the incense on the altar burst into flames, and Mrs. Lamb screamed in panic. "Oh, Mr. Trong, the altar's on fire." Mr. Trong, who was outside, altar ablaze, ran in and saw the entire altar ablaze. Without thinking, he grabbed a bucket of water and threw it, extinguishing the flames. He then collapsed onto the ground, lamenting, "What sin has this family committed to be tormented like this?" Now even the ancestral altar is burned. Trin Thought heard a commotion from Mr. Trong's house and jumped over the fence to see if he could help. Normally, Trin Thought and Mr. Trong were like fire and water. A small spark would cause them to stand on opposite sides and curse each other. But since Trin Thought had saved Mr. Trong and his wife, the relationship between the two families, especially Mr. Trong and Trin Thought, had improved exponentially. So now Mr. Trong had decided not to rebuild the fence, making it easier for them to visit each other. Arriving at the house and seeing the altar reduced to ashes, Tu Lac's wife and Mr. Trong were distraught, each muttering to themselves. Trin Thought then said, "Don't be sad. Both of you. Later, go to Old Tan's house. On an auspicious day, we'll reconsecrate the incense burner. Everything has already happened. Sadness won't solve anything. I was planning to visit Old Tan tomorrow morning anyway. I don't think this situation is right." Early the next morning, Old Tan was meticulously dressed, his hair slicked back and shiny. Today, he planned to go to Tom's house to declare his feelings. Just as he was about to close the gate and leave, a voice called out from outside, "Master Tan! Master Tan! Are you awake yet?" Old Tan frowned, muttering, "Oh, it's so early in the morning. Who is that damn pest calling at my gate?" They couldn't pick any other time, but they chose the exact moment I planned to visit Tom on this beautiful day. "An hour." "Annoyed," he replied. "I'm here. I'm here." Old Tan walked out, answering in an unenthusiastic tone, "It's already broad daylight, and you're asking if I'm awake. Do you think I'm so lazy I just lie around?" "Oh, Master Tan, please don't be angry. I didn't mean anything." "I'm just not good with words. I'm just not good with words. Please forgive this old man. I'm just saying that. I'm not really angry with you. So why did you come to see me?" "I came to ask you to visit my house and see what's wrong with my wife. For the past few days, she hasn't eaten or slept, and she's been having restless dreams. And yesterday, our ancestral altar caught fire." The husband then recounted all the recent events to Old Tan. Old Tan's face grew serious, and he said, "This is not good. As I said, someone wants to harm your entire family. I tried to stop it, but I failed. However, I am sure they will not stop until they achieve their goal. So, our task now is to find the person who wants to harm your family. For now, let me go to your house. I will help you set up new ancestral tablets, then protect your house. We must protect the lives of everyone in your family, and then, slowly, we will find out who is trying to harm your family." Old Tan closed the gate and let out his Phoenix motorbike. He patted the seat a few times, then told the husband, "Sir, get on. I'll give you a ride. It wouldn't be right for me to ride and you walk." The husband looked at Old Tan, hesitant. Can you really carry me?" "You're underestimating me, sir. Carrying you is nothing. At my age, I can carry 4 or 5 people." Along the way, Old Tan occasionally cursed. "Damn that sort." I told him to lower the motorbike seat, but he forgot 5 or 7 times, leaving me to suffer like this. Meanwhile, Soy, who was chopping water hyacinths for pigs, kept sneezing continuously. He wondered what damn person was bad-mouthing him to make him sneeze so much. Entering Mr. Trong's house, old Tan saw the blackened altar and shook his head. Your ancestors are very angry with your family. Today is a good day. You should buy a new altar, and I will reconsecrate the incense burner. Leaving it like this is not good. And you also need to make offerings to the ancestors and give food to Tu Lac. It's so sad. As old Tan and the husband were discussing, Trinhot entered through the door. He leaned against the door and chuckled. Trinhot used to be perfectly healthy, but he was injured while serving in the army during the war, which left him with a limp in one leg. After peace was restored, he returned home as a wounded veteran, receiving a pension. One would think it would be difficult for a man with a limp to find a wife. Yet, he had been married 3 times. Unfortunately for him, each marriage only lasted 2 or 3 years before his wives left him to join the ancestors. After his 3rd wife, he considered marrying again, but people spread rumors that he had a wife-killing fate. So now, when he tried to propose, no one would marry him, and none of his 3 wives had borne him a child. People whispered among themselves, wondering if it was due to Agent Orange poisoning that he couldn't have children. He, meanwhile, remained large and plump. Many rumors circulated about him, but no one knew that he was a coward, eager to live and afraid to die, far from being the war hero people thought him to be. In those fierce battlefield days, many went to war, but few returned, and almost none returned unscathed. Seeing his comrades fall one after another, some even dying without a trace, Trinhot was terrified. Once, during a mission, he saw his comrade get shot right next to him. He was so scared that he started trembling uncontrollably. In that urgent moment, with no one paying attention, he came up with a plan. He deliberately shot himself in the leg. This was the only way he could be sent home. His comrades, seeing him wounded, immediately took him to the medical station for treatment. After recovering, his leg was no longer normal, but permanently crippled, giving him a lopsided gait. He looked at his leg and chuckled. Well, a limp is fine, a handicap is fine, as long as I return home alive. If I'd have no descendants, and who could bear such a sin? That was his fabricated reason for his cowardice and fear of death. After recovering, he was discharged and returned to his village. Not long after, when the country was at peace, he got married. All right, come in and sit down. Stop standing there idly. You look like a restless spirit. Old Tan said sharply, looking at Trinhot. These 2 old men were arch enemies, always bickering when they met. They couldn't stand not making sarcastic remarks at each other. Now that they were older, it was better. But more than 30 years ago, they would have probably fought each other to a pulp on sight, and the reason for their animosity was that both of them liked Lan. Nay, even though Lan had been buried deep in the ground for a long time, the 2 old men still hated each other. Trinhot entered, his face sulky, trying to be inconspicuous. But he knew old Tan was here for a reason, so he also came because he had something to say. I came here because I have something to tell Mr. Trong and Master Tan. Old Tan, startled, asked again, You mean Trinhot? You, what did you just call me? Master Tan, oh my God, that Trin thought is possessed by a ghost. He's always talking about ghosts, so everyone thinks he's possessed. Old Tan looked at Trin Thought, whose forehead was very dark, as if he had been in contact with spirits. But seeing that Trin Thought's situation was not as urgent as Mr. Trong's, Old Tan decided to deal with Mr. Trong's problem first. Trin Thought looked at Mr. Trong, then at Old Tan for a while, then said hesitantly, "Well, I witnessed everything with my own eyes. I saw Tu Lac holding a knife and slitting his own stomach. Master Tan, why didn't you shout out to save him from such a horrific death?" Old Tan, sitting next to him, scoffed. "Oh, stop pretending to be a hero. You're always boasting about killing hundreds of enemies, but you were so scared seeing a few dead bodies, weren't you? Let me ask you, did you wet your pants that day?" "Well, I did get a little wet. Who cares about dead people? But ghosts, I'm scared of ghosts." And that day, I saw a woman wearing a conical hat standing outside the gate, staring intently at Tu Lac's front yard. Old Tan heard this and immediately asked, "What about her nose? Did you recognize her?" "It was too dark. I couldn't see anyone clearly. Thank you, Trin Hot, for this very useful information. Now we can narrow down the suspect to an unknown woman, old or young. But I'll find a way to catch the culprit. Now, Trin Thought, can I ask you for a favor? Hurry up and go call Soy to help me out with this. Old Tan, don't pick at old wounds, all right?" Trin Thought then stood up, limping, and walked out of the gate. Old Tan watched him and said, "There's my Phoenix motorbike over there. Take it. It'll be faster. Walking will take you until Tet to get there." Trin Thought glared back, then continued his slow walk, muttering, "I don't need to ride his broken-down motorbike. He thinks it's so great. I may be lame, but I've had 3 wives. Unlike that scabies-ridden old man with only one butt cheek. Mr. Trong, now it's just you and me. Have you done anything wrong? Tell me the truth, and I can help. If you hide anything from me, whatever happens later, you'll have to bear the consequences yourself. I swear, Master, I don't know anything. I don't know why all this is happening." Mrs. Lamb entered from the door, her voice heavy. "I've already prepared everything else at home for Master Tan to help." "All right, ma'am. I'm about to begin. I'll perform the ritual to help your family." As Old Tan was performing the ritual, Trin Thought and Soy entered. The two sat gently on a mat and clasped their hands. When Old Tan bowed, Mr. Trong's entire family, along with Trin Thought and Soy, also bowed devoutly, as if it were their own ancestral worship. Soy kept muttering, "Ancestors of Mr. Lee. Trong's family, you are wise in life and sacred in death. Please give me a lucky number. If I win, I'll buy a new car and a new house for all of you. And I'll tell Master Tan to give you lots of offerings to eat." After the bowing was done, Mrs. Lamb placed a tray of food on the mat in the middle of the house and said, "All right, everyone, once you've eaten, we'll continue. There's no need to go home to eat. It just wastes time. You can eat anywhere." Without a word, the 3 old men immediately sat down around the tray. Seeing the glistening golden meat, Soy's mouth watered. Old Tan whispered into Soy's ear, "What's wrong, Soy? At this rate, I'm taking a leg. One for each of us, you and me. Soy was about to grab a piece of the leg, but Tu quickly took it and put it in her son's bowl. Son, eat a lot, and save that other leg for later. Mrs. Lamb, sitting nearby, also added, Yes, darling, eat a lot, and grow big quickly. Soy and Old Tan looked at each other, speechless. Soy picked up a wing and placed it in Old Tan's bowl. Eat up, Tan, eat your fill. Tonight, we're going to need a lot of energy. After the meal, when Thu had put her little boy to bed, everyone was sitting and drinking water. Mrs. Lamb then spoke. I, an old woman, have something to tell you, gentlemen. I believe our ancestors are angry with me, which is why when I lit incense yesterday, the house caught fire and the entire altar burned down. Mr. Trong turned to his wife. What did you do that would make them angry with you? About the grandchild you killed. And what else are you talking about? My son is sleeping in there? Mrs. Lamb then tearfully recounted a story from a few years back. Does everyone remember the incident with Man? The girl who hanged herself from the banyan tree at the head of the village about 5 years ago. Man was Tu Lac's girlfriend, and she was even pregnant with his child. Trinford gasped in shock. So 2 lives for one, then? Mrs. Lamb raised her hand, wiping away tears, and continued. When Tu Lac wanted to marry Man, I disagreed. You're so foolish. Is this the only girl in the village you can marry? Her family is dirt poor. You'd better leave her. I've already picked a match for you. It's thou, the daughter of Mr. Dai, the rich pork butcher from the neighboring village. Her family is one of the wealthiest in this region. Marrying her would bring honor and pride to our family. So, Tu Lac listened to his mother's sweet words and forgot all his feelings and promises to Man. From that day on, instead of Tu Lac meeting Man, Mrs. Lamb went to meet her. There, she used the most venomous words to scorn the girl. Finally, she threw a handful of money at her face. Take this and get rid of the baby. Don't be foolish enough to give birth to it and let it be an orphan like you. You are. The next morning, people found a hanging body on the banyan tree at the head of the village. It was Man. The poor girl ended her life at the age of 20. We didn't know that poor girl was still carrying a fetus. We had to end a life before it even formed. Mr. Kayils. Trong immediately stood up, pointing at his wife's face, and choked out, Woman, you are truly evil. Old Tan, sitting next to them, despite being furious at Mrs. Lamb's actions, spoke softly. Well, what's done is done. Now, we need to find out who is trying to harm your family. It's Mrs. Anna. Well, it must be her. She definitely killed my son. What makes you say that? One time, she looked at me and said she would make my family pay many times over for witnessing the loss of a loved one. Old Tan pondered for a moment and said, To seek revenge in this way, one must be knowledgeable about black magic and spells. As for Mrs. N.A., I'm not certain, but it's not impossible that she knows those things. With that, Old Tan stood up. Soy, let's go. Old Tan then handed Soy a stack of talismans. After accompanying Old Tan so many times, Soy knew a few things that Old Tan had taught him. He was now naturally like Old Tan's disciple. In no time, the ritual setup was complete. Now, they just had to wait for the ghost to arrive. That night, just as expected, as Mrs. Lamb slept soundly, Tu Lac's ghost appeared again. Still, in that horrific form, Old Tan and the husband stood nearby, watching Mrs. Lamb, her eyes glazed over, her mind lost. It seemed she was being led by the spirit. As she walked, she called out, "Son, Tu Lac, my son." The husband was about to rush out to grab his wife, but Old Tan gripped his wrist tightly, holding him back. Understanding, the husband sat still. But when the ghost led Mrs. Lamb to the gate, it seemed to hit something and was violently flung backward. At this moment, Tu Lac's form disappeared, replaced by the spirit of a girl with shoulder-length hair and a pale face. It was impossible not to recognize her. It was man's spirit. Mrs. Lamb, now awake, saw man's spirit standing before her. Terrified, she collapsed to her knees. "I beg you, please forgive my family. I am the one who sinned. Just kill me." Man threw her head back and let out a chilling laugh that made even the dogs sense something ominous. And they began to bark furiously, as if at a ghost, then rushed to tear at Mrs. Lamb's neck. But Old Tan quickly stepped forward, pressed his thumb onto man's spirit's forehead, and chanted a spell. As Old Tan took a step forward, man's spirit recoiled a step, her soul twisting in pain. "Stop your hatred, and I will help you reincarnate. Master Tan, they harmed my grandchild. They killed my child and me. How long will this injustice continue? Please, let me put this to rest here. I will perform a liberation ritual for you, to help you find peace and reincarnate soon. Your revenge now will not bring you back to life. It will not change anything. It will only bring you more sin. But listen to me, man." Old Tan was still speaking when a loud scream echoed from outside the gate. It was none other than Mrs. Nyatatui. As she spoke, she lunged at Old Tan, quickly kicking him in the chest before he could react. He fell backward, spitting fresh blood from his mouth. Mrs. N's kick was not ordinary. It possessed some invisible power. Man's spirit instantly hid behind her mother's back, as if seeking protection. Soy was about to rush forward, but was pulled back by Trin thought. "You stay put. Is this a good time to go out there? Damn it, how can that old woman be so strong? She kicked Old Tan so hard, he's spitting fresh blood. I can't believe how strong she looks." Old Tan now knew he had met his match. He never expected Mrs. Na, who looked like an ordinary person, to know how to use magic, and even be better at it than him. If they fought hand to hand now, he would surely lose. Moreover, Mrs. Njia harbored a deep grudge, making Old Tan very worried. To protect Mr. Trong's family, he felt a pang of guilt. Old Tan thought to himself this time, "It's probably a lost cause. I might not even get to see Tom again." After some deliberation, he decided to fight Mrs. Natu. The death. Old Tan stepped back 3 paces, as if preparing to defend himself, then looked at Mrs. Anache and said, the dead are already dead. Consider it a life for a life. And forgive Mr. Trong's family. Don't seek complete annihilation. This is none of your business. If you're smart, get out of here. I'll pretend nothing happened and spare your life. Otherwise, if you want to die with these wretches, I won't stop you. But today, I will take the lives of these wicked people. At this moment, Mrs. N.H.A. took out a small jar and opened it. Tu Lac's spirit then appeared. Everyone was shocked into silence. Mrs. Lamb wailed, calling for her son. Tu, peeking through the crack in the door, saw her husband's spirit and couldn't hold back her tears. Old Tan, though outwardly calm, was very worried inside. He hadn't expected Mrs. N.T. to be able to capture Tu Lac's spirit. He knew that Tu Lac had been tormented to the point of his soul, shattering, suffering, unimaginable torture. Now, just one more blow, and his soul would be completely scattered, unable to reincarnate. Mrs. Nha brought out Tu Lac's spirit, scattering it around Old Tan, making him aware of her power. If he dared to make a move, she would completely destroy Tu Lac's spirit. This old woman is truly malicious. Such a talented person. If only she used her power for good. But now, she's using it to harm others, ruining her own merit. Old Tan thought to himself. Mrs. N.R. looked at Mrs. Lamb and Mr. Trong and said, "Look at your son. Look at how I've tortured him, how much pain he's endured. Ah, now, even his soul is half gone. If I want, I can completely shatter his soul so he can never reincarnate. I beg you, I was wrong. Do whatever you want with me. I just beg you to spare my son and my family. What is your pain compared to mine? My daughter lost everything. This whole village mocked me and my daughter. And when I lost both my child and grandchild, what was your pain then? Mrs. Nah, then forcefully pushed Mrs. Lamb, making her fall to the ground. Seeing this, Mr. Trong rushed to protect his wife. Mrs. Nha, with a fierce expression, chanted a spell, intending to completely shatter Tu Lac's soul. But Old Tan was quick. He immediately drew Tu Lac's soul into a ritual artifact. Seeing this, Mrs. Encha became furious and chanted another spell. A surge of black, cold energy shot from her sleeve, aiming straight for Old Tan. Old Tan recoiled a few steps, then took some blood from a prepared ink bottle and flung it towards the ghouls and spirits. As they reeled in pain, Old Tan rushed forward, wielding his Seven Terrors sword, slashing at them. But Old Tan didn't aim to destroy their souls. He only wounded them. While Old Tan was busy fighting the ghouls and spirits, Mrs. N.A. lunged, intending to stab Old Tan with a knife, but somehow Soy and Trin Thought rushed out and blocked Old Tan. Tan, I'll protect you until the very end. Old Tan was about to push the two idiots away. How could he fight if they were blocking him? He might accidentally kill them both. But before Mrs. D. could touch anyone, she was violently thrown backward, falling to the ground and spitting blood from her mouth. The intricately carved tiger's tooth, pendant on Trin Thought's neck, suddenly glowed, creating a barrier that surrounded all three men. Mrs. Encha was severely wounded. A stream of dark energy escaped from her body. Old Tan was stunned. Could this woman's hatred be so immense that she allowed a spirit to possess her body to increase her power? This method was very harmful to the body. If one didn't have enough spiritual control, it could lead to the body being taken over. And then Mrs. N.'s possessing spirit was flung out of her body, leaving her very weak, partly due to her injuries, and partly due to allowing a ghost to possess her. Her positive energy was depleted. Old Tan thought he would surely die today, but he never expected that thanks to Trin Thought, he would be saved. Man's spirit rushed towards her mother, but her arm couldn't reach her. Mother and daughter looked at each other and cried. Mother, let go of your hatred, mother. For years, I haven't wanted revenge. Both of us want to reincarnate, but you stubbornly held me back. Mother, let's just accept that our mother-daughter bond in this life is short. I swear in the next life I will still be your daughter. I must leave now. Mrs. Na looked at her daughter, tears of sorrow streaming down her face. I'm sorry, my child, for being stubborn and not letting you go. Please calm down, mother. I don't want you to accumulate more negative karma. At this moment, the husband, Mrs. Lam, and Tu Lac's wife approached Mrs. Njia and Man. The three knelt down and bowed their heads, apologizing. I apologize to you, madam, and to my grandchild, Man. I beg you to spare my family. I will treat Man as our own child and make sure she receives proper care to atone for the sins we have committed. Mrs. Encha nodded slightly at her daughter, who then looked at her mother and said her goodbyes before reincarnating. Mother, take care of your health. If there is a next life, I wish to be your daughter again. I must go now. Her spirit then slowly dissipated until it was completely gone. Mrs. Enya didn't say another word, just silently turned and walked away. Seeing her hunched figure disappear into the darkness, everyone felt a pang in their hearts. Master Tan, can I say a few words to my husband? Yes, say what you need to, but quickly. Your husband's spirit won't remain in the mortal world for long. Seeing her husband's gentle spirit still intact before her, Thu's tears fell silently. I will take good care of our child. I'm sorry, my love. Thu nodded, then rushed towards her husband, but her arm merely passed through Tu Lac's spirit. She didn't have time to say much more before old Tan's voice urged them from the yard. Is he done yet? Hurry up and go. The patrol is coming soon, and they'll beat his soul to a pulp. Tu Lac looked at her with a gaze full of love and regret. Then his spirit slowly dissipated. Trin Thought sat on the porch, fanning himself vigorously, and said, All right, it's done. Everyone go home now. I'm too tired today. Soi ran over and whispered into Trin Thought's ear, What do you mean go home? The piglet, whose throat we slit, is still waiting. I quickly had someone butcher it. Now, let's find a house with a papaya tree and ask for a few papayas, and we're done. Everyone in the village is asleep now. You won't get anything. Soi looked at Trin Thought and said, Hey, does my face look trustworthy? If I ask, I'll get it. No worries. In 1 minute and 30 seconds, we'll have papaya for stewing dog meat. Oh my God, just talking about it makes me hungry. So the old men, tired from the long night, staggered home together. Oh, later, when you go ask for papaya, scout out that banana garden for me. When I visit Tom tomorrow, I want to bring her a gift. See if the ornamental flowers are blooming at the graves. Pick me a bunch of chrysanthemums and a few roses. Why so many flowers? Chrysanthemums are for offering to the ancestors, and roses are for Tom. That was the task. The next morning, Old Tan, neatly dressed, went to Tom's house. He decided to confess his feelings to Tom, as a long night brings many dreams. He saw Trin Hot and Soy still sleeping, hugging each other, while Wretch, the dog, lay beside them, licking Trin Hot's mouth. Trin Thought, seemingly in a dream, probably thought some woman was kissing him and kept chuckling foolishly. "Hey, Trin Thought, are you awake? Should I lock the door?" Old Tan called out repeatedly. But the two men just snored. He ignored them, as no one would dare mess with his house anyway. He headed straight for Tom's house, determined to win her over. This time he was resolved to get a wife. Tom! Tom! Who was feeding chickens heard Old Tan's call and immediately ran out. "Master Tan, what brings you here so early? There you go again with Uncle. How many times have I told you to call me on? Older brother." Then Old Tan held out a bouquet of roses in front of Tom. Tom's face flushed as she took the bouquet from Old Tan's hand. "Master Tan, please come in." "Why are you standing outside the gate?" As soon as he entered the yard, Old Tan pulled Tom closer, took a deep breath, and said, "Tom, I like you, Tom." Tom lowered her head and smiled. "I've been waiting for you to say that for so long, and you're only saying it now? So, Tom, do you like me?" Yes. Old Tan tightly held Tom's hand, his eyes welling up with tears. Meanwhile, Mrs. Soy's wife, walked by, muttering curses about someone stealing flowers from a grave. "Oh, party,